I think, like, there's a deeper issue at the heart of that. I mean, the simple issue, like what I would say to politicians, what I just said is, wake up and look at what other people are doing in the rest of the world. Wake up and look at the wealth and the innovation that comes from the very core nature of the internet, right? You just can't make the argument that the things we have now and the things that we're creating, even something as, maybe conservative as RIM, exists without the fact that you can innovate without permission, that you can get content out there, get business ideas out there because of the very fundamental, participatory, transparent, remixable, hackable nature of the internet, right? So first thing that politicians look at the wealth that has been created and the culture that's been created, wake up, you're going to screw it up. But that aside, I think there is a deeper issue, right? And there's a very nerdy book. One of the notes I had in here is you guys were talking about it being a nerdy issue. Part of the problem is, these nerdy things sneak up on you, right? So nobody really kind of knew when those little Internet Explorer things were coming up and saying you can't access this site and what it meant for the net. You have to pay attention to the nerdy things, although most of us don't like to. So there's a very nerdy guy called Jonathan Zittrain who wrote a book called The Future of the Internet, How to Stop It. And the core thing that's quite nerdy about that, but it's the thing that we really don't know the answer to kind of how to deal with, is there's this tension, right, between all the stuff that's good about the internet that I just said created all this wealth and innovation, is also the thing that, the people who are effing it up use to F it up, right? And so the thing we haven't figured out socially, and there's some examples of where we have, is how you balance that, right? How we keep all that good stuff about transparency and remixability without, letting people who want to screw with us and screw with the net take advantage of us. I mean, the amount of email that is spam, whatever 90% it is the classic example of that. So that's like a moment we're in right now. But the answer is not to just lock it down. The answer is to find systems that kind of strike a balance. So Wikipedia is the classic example. It becomes this system that is at least as accurate, or in science articles more accurate than Encyclopedia Britannica, not because there aren't people who want to F it up, but because there are good systems of balancing the generativity and the accuracy of it, right? So we're in this moment where we actually need to invent social systems that let us strike that balance. So if you can get the politician nerdy a bit, and get him to listen to me as long as you just listen to me, that's the second answer, right? Is we need to not shut this stuff down, but figure out the social systems that strike that balance. But the first answer is wake up, look at all the great stuff we got.
From a pros and cons perspective, you get in a scenario basically where you line up with is the means justified to actually get to that point where you're starting to shut down websites, shut down areas of blogging because of certain sensitive information. Problem with that in the end is, where do you stop? And so as a result, you have to pretty much go with the best effort approach, or some kind of mediation that is justified. And quite frankly, politicians generally aren't the first place that should start at. So putting together groups to try to figure out best place scenarios or some kind of policies, possibly, but again, where do you start? And I guess this is where we're sitting here.
But your point before, Rocketing, is the first place to start with that, which is use the law, right? Use the law to stop hate speech. Use the law to stop child pornography. Don't use the internet, right? You're not going to shut down the highway system because somebody might drive a truck over it full of child pornography or guns. Use the law.
So I just wanted to go to a couple of questions from our online audience as well. I know there's a lot of people waiting in the room, but we are webcasting this, so we do want to acknowledge the great contributions from the folks online, including somebody by the name of, and it's always tricky to ask people for their names online, because they can put anything. Hi, my Syed, with a lot of caps and lowercase at the same time. So please, I thank you for your questions. I'm sorry if I got that incorrect.
Might not be their name.
Might not. That's crazy. Okay, so he or she has a couple of questions in here, but basically I know that Save Our Net touches on this a little bit, but on their website. But he's basically, he or she, it's terrible when that happens. In today's economy and society, isn't free bandwidth a necessity and not a luxury in everyday life, like the sidewalks and the roads and the traffic lights, etc.? So perhaps we can hear a bit from folks up here about that, and anybody else as well. And if whoever chimes in can also give our online audience a very basic, what is net neutrality, sort of in people speak, if you could touch on that as well.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay. Was it really convoluted? I'm good at this. I'm sorry.
The internet does that to you.
I know. So isn't free internet a necessity now that it's been created the way it has, like sidewalks and traffic lights, etc.? Is it something that we can actually, hand over to the monopolies of the telephone companies, etc.?
Do you want to start off? Oh, goodness. When it comes down to anything dealing in net neutrality, the basic principles are basically keep it open, keep it fair, and make so that choice is available at all cost. So if you keep many of these things in mind, especially when it comes to the business aspect of it, you come to the realization that the only way this can occur is to always try to maintain and strike a balance with competition, trying to not regulate things to the point where there's no more open environment. Somebody had been quoted at a Juniper event about 2 weeks ago where they spoke that the mobile world had exceeded the 4 billion mark across the world in penetration. So, I mean, if we start looking at the mobile world the same way that we're actually starting to look at the internet world, the control mechanisms that are being put in place are going to totally dictate everybody's lives. I mean, the TV, internet, and phone companies are starting to intermingle to the point where it's controlling everything. So we need to step in right now. We need to do it right away.
Did you want to chime in there?
I think the analogy I draw is not that the internet is like our sidewalks, but the internet is becoming part of our education system, part of a great many things. But in terms of it as a public service or as something that we all have access to or should have access to, I'd say it gets or should be compared to public education system. And there I think I would differ somewhat with Rocky and say that there's very definitely a need there for public input and both at the public policy level and also at the regulatory level to ensure all of the things that I think Rocky and I would agree are necessary. But my stress would be on accessibility, access not to the internet as we have it now or as it seems to be developing, but access to a very high quality, high speed, free or at least reasonably priced for all system. And that I think is the departure point and at the same time, oddly enough, also our goal or my goal.
Cool. I know that there's a lot we could speak to on every question, but in the interest of moving things along quickly, I did want to just say that there were a number of special guests in the audience tonight, and I know Mark put up his hand to ask a question, but we do also have Jesse Brown from Search Engine, David Skinner, he's a communications professor at York University, Mark Kuznicki, he's a Remark consultant, Dan O'Brien from ACTRA, Ben Lewis from the Canadian Federation of Students, and also Wayne McPhail from Rebel.ca. In addition, there are reporters from various mainstream television and television networks as well, and I haven't pointed them out. I'm not sure if I can see them right now, but this issue is affecting media certainly across the board.